She missed the interview that could have changed her life, just to help a stranger fix his tire. But what if that stranger was the one person who could change everything? The wind was cruel that morning, sharp, unapologetic, and unseasonably cold. Isla's coat was too thin for November, but she walked faster, clutching her mother's old leather folder to her chest, as if the weight of her dreams inside it could keep her warm. Her sneakers slapped against wet pavement as she reached the bus stop. Late. Again. She checked her phone. 8:34 a.m. Her interview was at 9 sharp. One missed transfer, and she was done. Her fingers trembled as she texted, "On my way. Thank you again for this opportunity. I'll be there. I promise. Eliana Mendoza." She stared at the message for a second before hitting send. It felt like a prayer. Her reflection in the bus shelter's glass stared back. Light brown skin, tired eyes behind black-rimmed glasses, and a neat ponytail pulled tighter than her nerves. She looked presentable, professional. Nothing like the daughter of a woman who scrubbed floors in this city's wealthiest neighborhoods. But Isla had earned this: a scholarship, a business degree, 2 internships, and now, possibly, a job interview at one of the most prestigious private equity firms in the city, Grayson Holdings. If she nailed this, her mother could finally stop taking the 4 a.m. cleaning shifts. If she nailed this, maybe... A honk broke her thoughts. The bus. She boarded, wedged between suits and sleepy eyes, her folder clutched like it contained gold. Meanwhile, across the city, in a penthouse draped in glass and silence, Thomas Grayson sipped his black coffee and stared at the photo on his desk. A young woman with sun-bright eyes and a dimpled smile. His daughter, taken 5 years ago, frozen in time. He hadn't touched the frame in months. The office was already buzzing, assistants chattering, phones ringing, but Thomas stayed in his study, watching the city bleed gray into the horizon. He had a meeting at 9:30, but he wasn't in the mood to talk to men who only saw dollar signs. His driver, Greg, knocked gently. "Car's ready, sir." Thomas stood, slow and deliberate. "Let's go." The black Mercedes cruised down Fifth Avenue, but Thomas waved Greg off at the next block. "Take the morning. I'll walk the rest." Greg hesitated. "You sure?" Thomas nodded. "Just need the air." He stepped out, the door shutting with a soft, expensive thunk. He barely took 10 steps before a jolt rocked the car. The rear tire hissed loudly, flattening like a deflating balloon. Thomas cursed under his breath. Greg was already driving off. Great. No drivers, no assistants, no staff. Just him, a flat tire, and 30 years of boardroom experience utterly useless on a city curb. Across the street, Isla's bus screeched to a stop again, engine wheezing, people groaning. 2 blocks, she whispered, ready to sprint. But then she saw him. An older man in a gray suit stood beside a luxury car, kneeling awkwardly beside the rear tire, tools spilled from a case beside him. His coat was too thin for November, and his hands were shaking. Something about him looked lost.
And for a moment, despite everything, Isla paused. No one else did. People streamed past him like he was invisible. "Not your problem," she muttered to herself. But then he dropped the wrench, and the clang echoed like a plea. She exhaled, hard, then crossed the street. "Excuse me," she said gently. "Need help?" The man blinked up at her, surprised. It's fine." She crouched beside him, grabbing the wrench. "No offense, sir, but you look like you've never changed a tire in your life." A faint smile flickered. "That obvious?" She nodded, already unscrewing bolts. "Yep." He watched her, baffled. "Don't you have somewhere to be?" he asked. She didn't look up. "Yeah, but some things matter more." Have you ever made a sacrifice for someone and never told them? Would you have helped the old man or kept walking to your dream? Tell us in the comments. Welcome back, my beautiful family and friends. If you're hooked in and you're ready to enjoy this story, click subscribe and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Because tomorrow, I will be giving you another story just as interesting as this one, and you don't want to miss it. Now let us begin. 9:17 a.m. Isla sat on the edge of the cafe's public restroom sink, her hands still stained with grease. She scrubbed at them, harder than necessary. The paper towel ripped. She blinked fast, but one tear slipped out. Not from sadness, from frustration. "You're so close, baby," her mom had said that morning, brushing Isla's blazer with loving hands. "I feel it. Today's the day." No, it wasn't. She had missed her chance. No job, no callback, just a moment of misplaced nobility that no one would ever know about. The irony? That man was probably already back in his office sipping espresso, forgetting her face. People like him always forgot people like her. She dropped the towel and walked out without looking in the mirror. Across the city, Thomas Grayson sat in his corner office overlooking the skyline, but he wasn't seeing anything. His assistant knocked lightly. "Sir, the board's waiting." He nodded, but didn't rise. Instead, he pulled up the building's CCTV footage. He watched it again, frame by frame. The girl kneeling by his car, the determined way she tightened the bolts, the way she spoke without flattery, spoke without fear. "Who is she?" he muttered to himself. No last name, no phone number, no LinkedIn profile. He had teams that could find anyone, but he didn't even know what he was looking for. He hated this feeling. Vulnerability. Thomas Grayson didn't chase people. Not ever. Later that day, Isla lay in her room above the brownstone where her mother cleaned during the day and slept during the night. The folder sat unopened on her bed. She picked it up, then dropped it again. A knock on the door startled her. Her mother peeked in. "I brought caldo," she said gently, lifting a Tupperware lid, "with garlic, to make you strong." Isla forced a smile. "Thanks, Mom." Her mother sat beside her. "You're not mad you missed it." Isla hesitated. "I am. But you helped someone." "I know." "Then why does it still feel like I lost?" Her mother placed the soup down and looked her in the eyes. "Because the world doesn't always reward goodness right away, but it never forgets it." Thomas stared out his office window as the sky dimmed into twilight. He hadn't returned a single call all day. Greg, his driver, appeared at the doorway. "Sir, you asked to be taken home at 5. Thomas didn't answer. Instead, he asked, "Do you remember that girl?" Greg blinked. "Girl?" "This morning, the one who changed the tire." "Oh, right, yeah." Thomas turned slowly. "I want to find her." Greg frowned. "Sir, that's not really—" "I don't care. Find her." He paused. "Don't tell anyone, not yet." Greg nodded. The quiet weight in Thomas's voice made it clear this wasn't business. It was personal. Meanwhile, Isla lay in bed, eyes open, staring at the cracked ceiling. She replayed the day over and over. The job she didn't get, the look on that man's face. The way he stared at her, not with pity, not with entitlement, but confusion. Like she'd made him question something. And then the bill. She could have taken it. She could have used it to pay rent, help her mom, fix her laptop. But she didn't. and that haunted her even more than missing the interview. Was she proud or just foolish? In both rooms, one high above the city, the other tucked in its shadows, neither of them could sleep. Both wondering, why does one small moment feel so much bigger than it should? It started with a knock. 3 short, hesitant raps on the brownstone's front door. Isla opened it cautiously. On the steps stood a man in a sleek gray jacket holding a clipboard. "Is Isla Mendoza?" he asked. Her stomach twisted. "Depends who's asking." "I was sent by Mr. Grayson. He would like to meet with you." She blinked. "Excuse me?" The man offered a small envelope. "Cab fare. He understands the morning didn't go as planned." She stared at the envelope like it might bite her. 1 hour later, Isla stood in the glinting lobby of Grayson Holdings. She had never felt smaller. Suits glided past her like ghosts. Heels clicked. Phones buzzed. The floor gleamed so brightly she could see her nervous reflection. She clenched her fists to stop them from shaking. What was this? An apology? An offer? Or worse, a game? The receptionist gestured. "Top floor, Miss Mendoza. Mr. Grayson is expecting you." The elevator doors opened with a soft ding, revealing a wide corner office framed in glass. Thomas stood facing the skyline, hands behind his back, like a painting of power. When he turned, he didn't smile. "Miss Mendoza. Mr. Grayson." A pause. "Thank you for coming." She crossed her arms. "Wasn't exactly an invitation." Another pause. He gestured toward a seat. She didn't take it. Instead, she asked, "Why am I here?" He studied her. "Because something's been bothering me." She raised her eyebrow. "I'm not used to being helped. Not like that." Isla sighed. "If you brought me here to write me a check..." He held up a hand. "No, that's not why." Finally, she sat. Thomas moved around his desk slowly, deliberately, and sat across from her. "I looked for you because I wanted to know who you were and why someone would give up a job interview for a stranger." She shrugged. "It wasn't noble, just felt like the right thing." He studied her again. "Do you believe in fate?" Isla blinked. "I believe in buses running late, bills piling up, and people making choices." He almost smiled. "Almost. That morning, you said you looked like you needed someone." She nodded. "You did." He leaned back. "And you were right." A strange silence settled. Not heavy, not awkward, just full. Isla glanced at the massive glass window. "You probably live in a world where people always want something from you." Thomas nodded slowly. "And you live in a world where no one expects you to have anything worth offering." She looked back at him, surprised. He wasn't wrong. Then he reached into a drawer and slid a slim folder across the desk. "What's this?" she asked. "A proposal." "I'm not a business partner." "No," he said, "but you're someone who should be in a room like this." She opened it. Inside, a paid internship offer. Grayson Holdings, 3-month rotation, Department of Strategic Planning, full compensation, future consideration for employment. Isla froze. "You're giving me a job?" He said, "I'm offering you a chance." She closed the folder slowly. "Why?" He didn't answer right away. Then finally, "Because when someone sees you, when no one else does, you don't forget it." "Do you believe everything happens for a reason?" What would you do if someone gave you a second chance you never asked for?
The office door closed softly behind her. Isla stood in the hallway holding the internship offer like it was made of glass. She didn't know whether to be grateful or furious. No interview, no test, just handed to her. "Because you helped me." That's what he said. But what would people say when they found out that she was just another maid's daughter who lucked her way in? She shoved the folder into her bag and left. The following Monday, she returned. Grayson Holdings was its usual whirlwind, polished, breathless, and sterile. She reported to her department, where her supervisor smiled politely but didn't make conversation. There was always a pause after they asked for her name, as if it meant something different here, as if it didn't belong. She worked quietly, listened more than she spoke, took notes obsessively, and tried not to let the whispers sting. On the third day, Thomas Grayson walked past the intern bullpen. His step slowed when he saw her hunched over a report, her brow furrowed, pencil tapping. He watched her for a second, unnoticed. He reminded her of someone, not in face, in fire. Later that afternoon, he asked her to bring a report to his office. When she entered, he gestured toward the shelf. "Would you mind handing me that photo?" She turned and saw a small frame half hidden behind a paperweight. A girl, laughing, mid-twirl in a garden, wind catching her hair. "Your daughter?" Isla asked softly. He nodded. "Elena. She's beautiful." She was. A silence followed. Isla didn't pry, but her fingers touched the edge of the frame gently before setting it down. Thomas noticed that. Not just the touch, the reverence. Like someone who knew grief. "I was 21, Isla said suddenly, "when I realized I'd spent most of my life hiding who I was." He looked at her. "My mom's worked for the same rich family for 17 years. I used to lie about what she did, told my friends she was a personal assistant." She half smiled. "Turns out ashamed looks a lot like ambitious." Thomas said nothing, but something in his eyes shifted, a knowing. Then she saw it. On his desk, a thin leather bracelet frayed at the edges. Isla tilted her head. "My mom made ones like that, years ago, when I was little." Thomas froze. "What?" Isla pointed. "That bracelet. It looks just like the ones she used to braid from scraps for extra cash." He picked it up slowly. "This was Elena's. She said a lady in our building gave it to her when she was a kid." Isla's breath caught. "What building?" "Midtown, 43rd and Lenox." She nodded, stunned. "That was us." Thomas's voice softened to a whisper. "Your mother made this." Isla nodded, dazed. "I remember Elena never took it off," he murmured, "even after it started falling apart." Something cracked open between them. The past wasn't just a photograph anymore. It had a heartbeat, a thread. Elena, the bracelet, Isla's mother. One act of care, years ago, reaching forward through time. Thomas sat down slowly, the bracelet still in his hand. "She helped my daughter," he said, almost to himself. "And now, her daughter helped me." Isla didn't know what to say. She had come into that building carrying her shame like armor. But maybe she didn't need it anymore. The rooftop wasn't on any building map. But Greg knew.
He unlocked the heavy steel door and nodded at Isla before stepping back. Mr. Grayson said you might need some air. Isla stepped out into the wind. The city unfolded below, a moving painting of life. Honks, sirens, conversations lost to distance. She pulled her coat tighter. "I thought you avoided people," she said softly, sensing his presence before she turned. Grayson stepped beside her, 2 paper cups in hand. He unlocked the heavy steel door and nodded at Isla before stepping back. Mr. Grayson said you might need some air. Isla stepped out into the wind. The city unfolded below, a moving painting of life. Honks, sirens, conversations lost to distance. She pulled her coat tighter. "I thought you avoided people," she said softly, sensing his presence before she turned. Grayson stepped beside her, 2 paper cups in hand. "I avoid most, but not all." He handed her a cup. The lid was warm. Cinnamon steamed through the vent. "Churro latte," he said, had Greg hunted down. She smirked. "Trying to win me over?" "No, just trying to learn who you are." They stood in silence for a moment. The breeze pulled at her hair. "Do you ever think about her?" Isla asked gently. He didn't answer right away. Then, "Every day. Every hour." She nodded. "My father left when I was 4. I used to stare out the window every night like he might walk up the street and apologize." Her voice caught. "He never did." Grayson turned to her. "Then who taught you to be this?" She smiled sadly. "My mom. She taught me you don't have to be powerful to be kind." He looked away, blinking. The city blurred a little. She took a sip of the latte. "Okay, that's criminally good." He chuckled. Greg said the same. For a moment, they weren't a billionaire and an intern. Just 2 people. Wounded. Honest. Awake. "I'm scared that I'll always feel like I don't belong here." Grayson looked at her. Really looked at her. "You belong more than most. They walk in here entitled. You walked in earned." She swallowed hard. "It doesn't feel like enough." He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out the frayed bracelet. "I used to think this wasn't worth much, but it reminded me of her." He handed it to Isla. "I want you to have it." Her eyes widened. I can't." "You already do," he said gently. "Your mother made it. It found its way back." She held it like a relic. Below them, the city moved on. But on that rooftop, time folded. A bracelet from the past, a girl from the future, and a man learning, finally, how to feel again. Thursday morning hit different. The office buzzed louder. Glances lasted a little longer. Whispers curled behind Isla like cigarette smoke. She ignored them. Tried to. Until she heard it, hissed between 2 assistants near the copy room. "The maid's daughter? Yeah, apparently Mr. Grayson's new intern? Please, it's obvious. Poor girl probably has a side deal. Or he's got a savior complex." They laughed. Isla stood frozen, just out of sight. She knew she wasn't supposed to care, but shame has claws, and it had found her again. That afternoon, Grayson called her in. The sun was low. Shadows sliced through the office like unanswered questions. "You wanted to see me?" she asked flatly. He looked up, surprised at her tone. "I wanted to thank you for that financial model. Very sharp." She nodded. "Glad it's useful." He leaned back. "You all right?" She hesitated. Then, "Do you ever wonder what people say when I leave a room?" He tilted his head. Why? She stepped forward, her voice trembling. They think I'm here because of you, because of pity, not merit. Grayson frowned. What other people think doesn't matter. To you, she snapped, because you don't have to prove you belong. The words landed harder than she expected. He stood. That's not fair. I didn't ask for a shortcut. I missed my interview. I let that go. But then you pulled me back in. And now I'm the story people whisper about when they think I'm not listening. His jaw tightened. I gave you a chance. No, she said. You gave me a gift. And now everyone thinks I'm just the girl who helped change your tire. Silence stretched. He looked away. I didn't realize, he said finally. That's the problem, Isla whispered. You didn't ask. Grayson crossed his arms. You think I'm manipulating you? I think you're rewriting my life without asking if I wanted to. The words stung both of them. One month later. A different kind of morning. No wind, no rush. Just sunlight pouring through windows and the quiet calm of a day that didn't ask to be chased. Isla stood in the marble lobby of Grayson Holdings, coffee in hand, not as an intern, but as a full-time analyst, earned, interviewed, chosen, on her own merit. Her badge clipped to her blazer. The team greeted her with genuine nods now. Some even smiled. The whisperers had long since moved on to someone else. Isla had stayed because she belonged, not in spite of her story, because of it. On the top floor, Thomas Grayson stood by the window as usual. But this time, he wasn't alone. Isla entered quietly. They're opening a new branch, she said, holding the report he'd asked for. You'll need a director of strategic talent development. He raised an eyebrow. Suggesting yourself? No, she said, grinning, suggesting someone better. She handed him a second resume. Her mother's. Years of service, household management, fluent in 2 languages, budgeting, scheduling, conflict resolution. Grayson read it, nodded. Let's schedule a meeting. Isla smiled. That afternoon, Isla stepped out for lunch. The city was humming, same as always, but something pulled her toward a side street, a place she hadn't walked since that day. She crossed the intersection and saw it. The exact spot where his car had broken down. The moment that changed everything. A car honked behind her, not out of anger, just impatience. She laughed under her breath and stepped aside. A memory hit her, the way the wrench slipped from his hands, her fingers covered in grease, his eyes so lost. She walked to the curb and crouched. For no reason at all. No flat tire this time, just gratitude. Later that night, Grayson hosted a small event, his first in years. No boardroom suits, no staged speeches, Just stories, soft jazz, and guests who had earned their way into his heart. Greg poured drinks. Isla stood beside her mother, who wore the same necklace she'd once cleaned off marble floors for other women. Grayson found her near the bookshelf. They shared a toast. "To missed interviews," she said. He raised his glass. "And flat tires." Then she handed him something, wrapped in soft cloth. He opened it. A new bracelet, woven from gold thread and leather, identical in pattern to the old one, only stronger. Her mother had made it. "This one doesn't break," Isla said. Grayson's hand closed around it, slowly. "I'll never take it off." Outside, the city went on. Cars passed, people hurried. No one knew the story that had unfolded between an old man and a maid's daughter. But they didn't have to. It belonged to them. And sometimes, the smallest acts, the missed buses, the bent wrenches, the quiet kindnesses, are the very things that lead us home. Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as interesting and even more intriguing as I can ever imagine. So do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one.